out. Donald Trump is leading with 95.
I think our leader, Trudeau, I don't think I've ever heard him say a true word.
Oh, hello. Do you have a warrant to be here?
Oh, yeah.
It's time for a change in this country, my friends. A real change.
Wiggle and squirm as you might, it is really hard to put lipstick on a pig.
When I'm Prime Minister, I will keep my promises.
WTF.
Here.
I know this place is where I am. No other place is better. No matter where I go, I am proud to be Canadian. I am, you know I am. The worst that works.
The one we call Canadian.
Gentlemen, beam me aboard.
Hey gang, what's up? Trying my new software. We're gonna watch some American federal politics, see what's going on down there. If I have issues, let me know in the comments. I'm not used to this software, but it's got a couple of really cool features. Like what you're seeing right there. People I think are gonna like that kind of stuff. Anyhow, how's everybody doing? It's a big election. There's a lot on the line for the world, I think, because the United States is the superpower, right? Like China's up there, but the United States has a lot of strength, and it's kind of a must win tonight, right? Like, I know I'm counting on it. I don't think it will affect our next election, but it will affect how society is in general. Like, they're coming down on censorship. Their left wingers are as nuts as ours. They're bringing in a carbon tax. They've got new taxes coming on extra income and, oh Lord, capital gains taxes. It's a lot of things going on. Anyways, we'll drop into this and see if it's going to work. Hopefully it's going to work. I recognize that feed, so I'm watching a station from India, and right now they're watching the Associated Press stream. See if I can find something more interesting than that. I'll be back to the chat here in a moment. Yes, I would agree that it's all designed to destroy our independence. They're trying to take everything they possibly... It's communism. That's what's lurking in the shadows. Not you folks. Here we go. Just went perfect time.
Hello and a very warm welcome. I am Gushin Garland and you're watching our special coverage of the US presidential election only on First Book.
Again, give Indian news a chance. It's better than the stuff we watch up here, and the amount that they... how much do you know about the government in India? You know, they know everything about our politics.
Here are the top headlines. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump rack up early wins as the first key polls close in one of the tightest presidential elections in the U.S. history. There are no major surprises in early results.
About that, Carol.
Donald Trump and Kamala Harris remain neck and neck in all 7 swing states. Pennsylvania, Georgia, and North Carolina remain key states this election. Democrat Kamala Harris wins the north and eastern state of New Hampshire. The state has 4 Electoral College seats and is one of the first states to pick its presidential preference. Democrat Kamala Harris wins New York, securing 28 Electoral College seats for her presidency. The traditional blue state was last won by Republicans in the year 1984 by Ronald Reagan. Wisconsin's Milwaukee City to
Vice President Harris.
It should never happen. A thing like that should never happen. This election should be over. They spend all this money on machines. And frankly, if they'd use paper ballots, it would be over by 10 o'clock. And by the way, the paper ballots would cost 8%. It would be 8% of the cost. If they would use paper ballots, voter ID, proof of citizenship, and one-day voting, it would all be over by 10 o'clock in the evening. It's crazy. They use these very expensive computers, and I'm hearing in Pennsylvania they won't have an answer till 2 or 3 days from now. I think it's an absolute outrage if that's the case. Now, maybe it'll be later, but it's paper ballots in France. They went paper ballots because the mail-in was not working. It was corrupt. And in France, they went paper ballots. And at 10 o'clock in the evening, they had 37 million votes counted and done. They had a winner, they had a loser. And in this country, I mean, I'm just hearing that in certain states, it's going to be a long time. And it won't even be close. It won't even be that close. They say, I'm going to win the state, but it's going to take a long time to certify it.
Could you see a world where you don't declare victory tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing the same things that you're hearing. I'm hearing states where I'm up by a lot, but they won't have a final number for a long time.
What are your plans for tonight in terms of watching the results and so forth?
So we're going to have a very special group of people, many of whom you know, and they'll be at Mar-a-Lago. In addition, we'll have 4,000 or 5,000 people at the convention center. On the assumption I win, I mean, I don't know if something else happens. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of declaring victory, but if in normal times I would go over to the convention center, let's say at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or something, but I just don't know. It looks like we have a very substantial lead. It looks like we have many more Republicans voting today than Democrats. So if you have a lead and we have a bigger vote, that means you're doing very well, but they have to call a winner. They should. And they should call a winner, yes. Just stop talking about it.
I'm afraid to.
Oh, I don't know. I was honored to get Joe Rogan last night. I mean, Joe Rogan's a big deal. He's a very respected person. And I must tell you, Megyn was fantastic. She got up and said some things that were really pretty amazing. But before that, I just think we ran a good campaign. I had good policy. We want people to come into our country, but they have to come in legally. You know, we want strong borders, and we want people to come in. We want to be totally inclusive, but they have to come in. I think that was a big issue. To me, that was the biggest issue. I may be wrong. You know, a lot of people said inflation. Inflation's a disaster, but I think it's a second issue. I think the first is
On the 5th of November, millions of voters in the United States will cast their ballot to elect their next president. However, there's a catch. The world's oldest democracy does not hold elections which can be considered as the easiest to understand. In fact, the American voting system is quite complicated. Now, most democracies in the world follow something that's called the popular vote, where voters directly cast their ballots to a political party or leader. It's a direct transfer of the vote from the voter to whoever is on the ballot. But the United States does not follow this. In fact, it's the only democracy in the world that has an indirect voting system called the Electoral College. Simply put, the Electoral College is a process of voting. It's not really a college. It was established in 1787 AD and was included in the US Constitution by the Founding Fathers. The Electoral College is basically the selection of electors who are called delegates. On the 5th of November, when Americans will queue up to vote, they won't actually be voting for their next president. Instead, they'll actually be voting for delegates who represent their respective states, and these delegates will then vote for the president. So, how does the Electoral College work? The Electoral College is made up of 538 delegates. You must be wondering where the number 538 comes from. It's the number of senators and representatives from each of the 50 states. The breakdown of 538 includes exactly 100 senators, 2 from each state, and 438 representatives from the 50 states. Each state's number of representatives is based on its population. Let's take a closer look with an example. California and Texas are the two most populous states, and so they have a higher number of representatives. However, regardless of the population of the states, each of them gets 3 votes to start with. The remaining are then added depending on the population of the state. However, that does not mean that the states with a higher population enjoy more voting rights. In fact, it can be quite the opposite. Let's take the example of 2 states. The population of Texas is over 29 million. On the other hand, Alaska has a much smaller population of just above 700,000. However, each representative from Texas and Alaska roughly represents the same proportion of the population. So, as Texas gets 38 representatives in the US Congress, Alaska gets 3. And this makes voting different in Texas and Alaska, because each of the 38 delegates from Texas now represent roughly over 760,000 people. Meanwhile, each delegate from Alaska represents over 250,000 people. Basically, it takes 760,000 people from Texas to get 1 vote, but it just takes 250,000 people from Alaska to get that same 1 vote. So the vote in Alaska can be considered a lot more influential. When Americans go to polls in November, they aren't exactly voting for the president directly, but their state's representatives, whether that's Democrat or Republican. And then these delegates give their votes to the presidential candidate from their party. Whichever candidate then wins the majority in a state, no matter how big or small it may be, wins all the electoral votes of that state. And in total, to win the race to the Oval Office, a candidate must win 270 and more votes across 50 states. So when Americans say this,
I love her. I am so glad to see a presidential nominee who is youthful and joyful, and I think that reflects right back onto the Democrats. My first time voting in a presidential election, and I could not be happier.
I don't know the exact numbers, but I know the last election, I think Trump got like 88 or 90% of the vote here. I think he's going to get that again.
The courts will take care of that. Let's take care of him in November.
what they really mean is that they will vote for the delegates who represent their political party. And then, those delegates will vote for the presidential candidate from their respective parties.
Kamala, you are fired! You're fired! Get out! Get out!
It's time to turn the page.
However, the delegates don't have to necessarily vote for the candidate that the population wants to give its vote to. In fact, electors are free to vote against the wishes of the people. And this is despite having been elected as a delegate by the voters. So, with how complex the electoral system is, should the US continue with it, or adapt the much simpler popular voting system? A survey from 2023 shows that a majority of Americans want to do away with the Electoral College. A Pew Research study shows that nearly 2/3 of US citizens want popular voting. Americans say that it would truly reflect the mood of the nation for who should sit in the Oval Office. That's because a presidential candidate could win the popular vote, which means that more people voted for them, but they could lose the presidential race due to the Electoral College, where the victor is decided by the number of delegates and not the votes of the people. The Pew study has some more insights on the issue. It says that Democrats are far more likely than Republicans to support moving to the popular vote. On aggregate, over 80% of Democrats say that they would like to have the popular voting system in America. In contrast, about 45% of Republicans share the same sentiments. Moving away from party ideologies and towards demographies, almost 70% of Americans under the age of 50 prefer the popular vote. On the other hand, Americans who are 65 and older want the Electoral College to continue.
A very nice call from Kamala.
The current system allows a candidate to lose the popular vote, but still win the Electoral College. This occurred both in the 2000 and the 2016 elections, which were won by George W. Bush and Donald Trump, respectively. However, the only way to change the Electoral College would be through a constitutional amendment. But amending the Constitution is a Herculean task. The last time it was done was in the year 1992, and it was about raising salaries for congressional lawmakers. So, for now, it looks like Americans will have to keep voting using the Electoral College to elect their president.
There is no truth to the allegation that there is mass shooting in Philadelphia. We have been in touch with the RNC and anybody who has any complaints throughout the day. We've been responsive. Everything has been handled appropriately.
I don't want to say anything, Donald Trump. Only thing I want to say is us, citizens of Philadelphia, you're going to get the election that you deserve, and you have always been having accurate results and honesty. And we have great citizens here working to do their job. I mean, I saw something on social media. I mean, I saw it said something about it was cheating and all that kind of stuff. Again, that's not nothing new. I mean, this playbook has been played since 2020. We saw it, and we're going to do our job to give the citizens and give America.
Typically, I know that in Atlanta, they also just got a whole bunch of bomb threats come through, and Atlanta Police Department, they're keeping everything open. All the precincts are staying open, and they're just sending dogs around to sweep it to make sure that they're safe. But we know where it's coming from. FBI knows where it's coming from, but we want to make sure, interest of public safety, that everyone make sure that it doesn't, slow down anyone from voting. And like I said, if you are in line at 7 p.m., you can continue to stay in line until you exercise your right to vote. It's just a little bit slower because you have, I think that was 15 precincts plus the 2 in Cobb. It's a total of 15 precincts, so it just extends it out for there. But all those early votes have already been, all the early voting has already been done. There's no reason for that should not be tabulated and, uploaded quickly. And then all the other votes for the absentee that have been accepted, so that should come quickly also. I'm frustrated as an American that people would threaten other Americans, and so, or threaten, just question the safety. And so that's what frustrates me, but we work through it. But, our heart goes out for our voters, and that's what our concern is, and our poll workers.
We planned heavily for the incident of a bomb threat being called in, and it's a good thing we did, because that's the only thing that happened today was 32 bomb threats at different polling locations. 32. We were able to clear 27 of them very quickly without the need for an evacuation. 5 of them, the polls were temporarily closed down at the poll manager's request while we conducted the sweep, and they were reopened. We don't know where the threats came from at this point, and it is an active investigation, but we do intend on doing our best to locate who made the threats and prosecute them fully. We're investigating that possibility. I have not spoken to the Secretary of State today. It's been a very busy day.
So where did he get that it came from Russia?
I have no idea. You'd have to ask him. Some were called in to 911, some were called into the location, and some were emailed. They weren't all in one location. They were in all but 2 of the different cities within Fulton County, so they were all spread out throughout the county.
I told you in the beginning that we were ready, and the results of today's election proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that Fulton County, Georgia was ready for the 2024 election. We have had 177 precincts, 1,800 well-trained professional poll workers who did an outstanding job today.
Important issues are reproductive rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, and just feeling safe just feeling safe here.
Definitely, again, like reproductive rights, I think reproductive rights are human rights. And although Nevada has a good constitution that kind of protects it, civil rights don't stop at the state borders. There are a bunch of other states that don't have those rights, and I think it's important, even though we're here in Nevada, to protect other states who don't have those rights either.
This is the first time I voted for the presidential election. I'd say that it was pretty important just because the thing that I was most concerned about personally was the reproductive rights question, and that's what brought me here.
Definitely the biggest one and the biggest talk is the reproductive health. Now that I'm in my 20s now, I'm no longer a kid, I realize, oh my gosh, these are things that are affecting me in the future, in my friends and my family, and I think that's super important that we continue to fight for them.
One of the issues that was definitely important to me was rights for birth control for women. What's it called? I think that's the only one that comes to my mind, to be honest.
All right, guys, we're gonna put that on pause and try to find something else. That's getting boring. And we are getting close to maybe some, I don't know what they're going to do after midnight, but sorry. So it's almost midnight here. I'm in Nova Scotia, and it's 10 to 12, 10 minutes to midnight. So yeah, there is a lot of at stake, I think, just internationally, it's the United States. They're a very big, wealthy, powerful country, right? So I think there is a lot at stake in Canada. It's going to be hard to make some of the change. Anyways, it would just be nice to see a turn away from this woke movement, which has been getting on my nerves, especially lately, because everything that you say, they just twist around. They're, it's a pretty nasty way of being. So, here we go. We'll check this out.
Strength is going to lift. Sheehy not race. I don't think Kevin Lake has a shot per se. The polls I saw in Arizona had a lot of split ticket between Trump and Gallego. But, you know, overall, if Republicans can pick off a couple of these Democratic seats, you know, then it's a very good. Because they probably will take the House also. So you can see a unified Republican Washington, D.C. next year, and Donald Trump would be able to enact a lot of this policy agenda that he was thwarted, you know, from doing during his first term, if he's elected.
So AG, if we can come back onto my screen here, I want to just show the Senate map. The balance of power is behind me here, and this is giving us a look at how this thing is shaping out. So right now, and obviously you need 50 seats in order to have control of the Senate if the president is Donald Trump, because that would mean that J.D. Vance would be the tiebreaker. That would give Republicans control. That would mean they would only need 50. Now, if they want control regardless of who wins the presidency, they would need 51. Let's tease this out, AG. There are quite a few competitive Senate races around the country: Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin. As you mentioned, it's not as competitive in Arizona as it once was. Montana, we are seeing that John Tester has a steep uphill battle. Is there really any path to the Democrats maintaining control in the upper chamber at this point?
Not with the way this map is going. You know, it's going to be very difficult, and I think you would need for the Senate candidates to really outperform Harris in state after state. You know, my guess right now is 52, 53 Republican seats. And that's really what you want if you're the Republicans, because, you know, it's very hard to maintain a unified caucus in the House or the Senate. So you want that margin to be a couple points higher than just a 50-50 split with Vance casting a bunch of tie-breaking votes. So, you know, it's really early to tell with these Senate races, but I'm less confident in those than I am in Trump right now. But, you know, I really do think Trump is the rising tide that will lift some of these Senate candidates up.
Okay, so in the meantime, A.G. Gankarski with the New York Post, we're going to have to leave it at that. We do appreciate it. We are nearing the top of the hour. Oscar Westphal here in the Live Now newsroom with me. But in the meantime, though, speaking of some of these Senate races, I want to put up some of the results. Let's go back to Virginia right now. Take a look at this. Democratic incumbent Tim Kaine there leading over his Republican challenger, Hung Kao. You see there. We also have Tim Kaine speaking live right now to his rally group of supporters. Let's listen.
Embody, and by the progress that you've demonstrated. So it's going to be a long night. We're going to have, however all these results go outside Virginia, we're going to have a lot of work to do. We're going to have a lot of work to do to promote more peace in the world. We're going to have a lot of work to do to create this economy that is not just for a few, but for the many, and expand healthcare options and protect reproductive freedom and fight gun violence and battle for a cleaner environment. And there's so much work to do. But we've shown in Virginia that if we link arms